Morning. How are you? Good. Hi. How are our online connections? Supervisor Howard's available? Okay. Anyone else? Good morning. Welcome. In Russia, this would be a day of celebration, May Day, big parade. We're just happy to get through April, and here we are. Like to recognize the supervisor, or Vice Chairman Howard is on the phone. He's got a errand of mercy, helping a friend out, so he'll be joining us and participating. And we'll start our meeting with Pledge of Allegiance, and our Health Department Director, Brian Douglas, will lead us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item of business is from our esteemed County Attorney Scott Bennett regarding clarification on a contract that we entered into at our last meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning.
Morning.
This, as Chairman David just pointed out, is not new business. We just want to clarify. Last board meeting, we came seeking approval for a misdemeanor contract and a felony contract. We just wanted to make it clear, and ultimately those contracts have been signed. We asked to ratify them, but there is both a misdemeanor and a felony contract, and this is simply a point of clarification to make sure all the paperwork matches up. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Discussion?
Chairman, I'll move that we go ahead. Unless you have it.
I have no discussion.
All right, I'll move that we confirm the clarification that Mr. Clifford entered 2 agreements for prosecution services and ratify approval of both the felony and misdemeanor agreements.
And I will second that.
Thank you. I'll make that unanimous. That motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Scott.
We actually, that was just more of an advisory. There wasn't actually an action item. It was just advisory, right?
Yeah, technically, it was unclear the way we listed it on the agenda.
Okay.
So I suppose the movement to ratify.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Just didn't want to be out of order. Next, we have Hannah Duderstadt, our elections director and assistant clerk.
Good morning. I'm here to request approval to appoint precinct committeeman. This is for precinct number 2, Safford. It has 7 PC allotments. We have currently 5 filled. So I'm asking if we could appoint John Rhodes.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No?
None.
Great. Everyone that steps up to be precinct committeeman is great. I'll move that we approve appointing the precinct committeeman pursuant to ARS 16-821B.
And I will second that.
Thank you very much. Supervisors, I'll make that unanimous. And I would just note that John Rhodes has served Graham County for an awfully long time, and the fact that he continues to want to serve and assist in our democratic process is commendable. Thank you. Next we have Steve McGoy regarding a manufactured housing installation inspection agreement.
Good morning, gentlemen. We're here to get you guys to sign on to the agreement between HUD by way of the state of Arizona for us to do local manufactured housing inspections per HUD standards, and also to do those for the city of Safford, town of Duncan, and Greenlee County. The addition to this, and the reason for the change, is the addition of the town of Duncan. And our county attorney's office put a myriad of hours into correcting these documents, and we sent them to the state, and they said, thank you, and we're not disagreeing with your changes, but in order to make those changes, we'd have to change every contract, over 140 contracts within the state. It's all one big contract, and so all her fixes did not go through, and Justice Brnovich said, I don't disagree that it needs fixed, but not today. So as is how we have to take it.
Very good. Questions or comments, concerns? I had one question, and there wasn't any financial information in our agenda packet. It's not that it was being withheld, it's just it would be voluminous. So my question is this, as we expand and do the inspections, especially with the travel involved, do you have a sense or do you track it to see if this is actually either a revenue neutral or beneficial activity for us? Are we making money, or are we just providing a service and subsidizing those efforts?
Probably a little bit of both. We tend to notice that when we go to Greenlee County, we're usually doing 3 at a time. I don't know why that happens that way, but I think it's because the dealer schedules them to be done. I mean, he sends his crews over there and does 3 at a time, and so we're actually, pretty busy when we do go over there. So the mileage and everything gets broke down there. I don't think it's costing us much more than running to Fort Thomas for a single.
Okay. Is there, with these contracts, an opportunity to charge more, or is it a set amount and it's just like the contract language is take it or leave it?
It's a set amount, and I think originally the reason for doing it was that the state can't get out here nearly as quickly as we can, and previous board didn't want to hold that up, and but the price has gone up just in the last, probably about a year ago. Price went up by $200 per permit, so I don't think we're spending that much more on them, and that was a mandatory uppage.
Very good. Well, I'm satisfied. Thank you, and thank your inspectors for taking care of that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'll move that we approve to renew the agreement with the State of Arizona Department of Housing to do all the manufactured housing installations, inspections in Graham County, City of Safford, Town of Duncan, and Greenlee County.
I will give it a second.
And I'll make that unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve, appreciate it. Next we have our HR Director, Cindy Norris Blake.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the first request that I have is for the health department for the jail medical portion. We have a part-time detention nurse that usually works about 9 to 10 hours a week. We had a very difficult time in the past filling this position. In fact, we had an employee that was in that position for about 3 years, resigned in September of 2021, and then we advertised immediately. We actually received one application in October of 2021, offered employment to that person, and unfortunately they failed the background check. So then we came before the board in December of 2021 when we were not receiving any applications and requested the reclassification of the salary from $25 an hour to $30. We went back out and re-advertised, didn't get anything until December of 2022, and that was only because one of our employees that was a part-time dispatcher completed nursing school and got her state boards. So she came to work for us from January until last month, where she resigned and has moved to Michigan. We have not only found that it's difficult recruiting for that part-time position, but we need a full-time position to help coverage with jail medical. So that is why the request is being made. And the fund is through the sheriff's office for the jail revenue funds, and it can sustain this if approved.
Thank you very much. Any discussion?
None.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, it's hard enough to find a full-time nurse, let alone a part-time in this environment, so I can understand. With that, I'll move that we approve to reclassify the part-time detention nurse position to full-time.
And I will second that.
I'll make that unanimous.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And next item is, you put quite a bit of time into revising the manual to reflect some changes and upgrades, so we'll turn that time over to you for that.
Thank you. So we sent out a policy change survey in January of this year to all the department heads and elected officials for review and to get their input back about some potential changes to the merit system manual. So that's why this request is being made. Although we did add some clarifying language and some revisions, I'm going to focus on the policy changes. So currently, if an employee begins with us, they cannot apply for any vacancies, any open positions within the county when they're a classified staff until they've completed that 1-year probationary period. So the request is being made to change that language to a regular status Graham County employee could apply and be placed on the certification list if they meet the minimum qualifications at 3 months of service for within their own county department. And then after 6 months of service, if they want to apply for anything outside of their department. Of course, with both of those, there can't be any disciplinary action that's happened within that time period. So there's that one. We did remove the language for merit increases. We received lots of great input on that policy survey, but we're still trying to work through those items to figure out if we're going to replace it and what we can replace it with. It was found that other counties have experienced step increases as us, or they don't have merit increase, and they don't have, they changed their language to be more pay for performance. The next thing was right now when an employee is hired, they start accruing vacation and sick leave right off, their first pay period, but they're not allowed to use their annual vacation time until they've completed 6 months of service. So the request is being made to remove that restriction too. Employees are allowed to use sick leave after they accrue at their first pay period. We want to make that more consistent, and I think that that would be a good recruitment tool as well. And quite frankly, it's happening anyways, whether they have the time or they can use it or not. If they have something scheduled, they're being allowed to take time off without pay. So that was another one. And the last one I'd like to mention is because if the annual leave is changed, we still would like to keep the language consistent with having, if an employee separates from service, having their payout for vacation leave, anything they have on the books at 6 months of service like it is now. And I would entertain any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Any comments?
I think those are all great changes and gives our management more flexibility and to move people around and encourages people to work here and start here and stay here. So those are kind of changing with the times, it seems like.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention too that we added additional language within the merit system manual about a dress code policy, right? Because before there was nothing clearly stated in there except for disciplinary causes. It's just a tool that a department could use to refer back to. Of course, every department is different with what they would allow their employees to wear because there's some departments that are strictly uniforms. So I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Mention it.
I was going to comment. I approve of that. Especially the attire. I think that the grooming could be subjective, and it would be, might be hard to apply or enforce, just because of the subjectivity of it and the changes in social mores. But no, that's that's a good tool, and I approve of your efforts and thought that those were all excellent changes. So, any other comments, Vice Chairman?
No, they're all
No, I
great
just
changes. Oh, sorry.
No, I just appreciate their hard work and their diligence in getting this done. Appreciate it much.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion then.
Chairman, I'll move that we approve the revisions to the Graham County Merit System rules.
And I will gladly second that.
I'll make that unanimous. Thank you
Thank you.
very, very much. Next, we have resolution to name our Chief Financial Officer, Julie Rodriguez, to give her a formal title for the benefit of the Auditor General.
So moved.
Good morning. This is a requirement of the state every year that the board designate somebody to be responsible for the expense limitation report. You're more than welcome to pick somebody else. But I guess I'm volunteering to be your chief fiscal officer responsible for making sure that that report gets submitted to the state.
This is a very reasonable request, Chairman. Move that we approve the resolution 2023-02 naming Julie Rodriguez as our Chief Fiscal Officer for the fiscal year ending 6/30/2024 for the purpose of our expense limitation report to the Office of the Auditor General.
And I absolutely second that one.
Thank you for taking care of this. One other thing, I would note that I saw your vehicle here on Friday, and I wasn't here Saturday, but it was probably here Saturday too. So thanks for your work. I know it's budget season, but you are appreciated, and your efforts are superb. I'll make that unanimous, and that motion carries.
Thank you. My second item of business has to do with the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System pension funding policy. We are also required by state law, state statute, to come up with a funding policy every year. And if you remember a little history, we started this in 17-18, and our goal was to be fully funded over a 30-year period. Financially back then, that was the best we thought we could do, but we have really worked hard to make some extra payments. And for example, in fiscal year 2021, we took took $2 million of our CARES Act money and applied this directly to this. And so if you look at the historical information I included, we've gone from a low of a funding ratio of 55.8% back in 2009 to currently we are at 81.1% as of the actuarial statements dated 2022. So we're making some great progress. We have been putting a minimum now of $600,000 a year toward this in our budget. This year it actually ended up being $675,000 because we also receive a small amount of money from the state for Prop 207 marijuana personnel monies for the Sheriff's Office that we designated as a board to go specifically to this purpose. So we've made some good progress, even though they have moved the goalpost from what they're looking at now is the present value of future benefits. So we thought we would be at 89%, but we're at 81%, but it's still, we've made a sizable increase in performance.
Thank you. That is a great report, and it reflects well on the on your vision and our management, Dustin's efforts, and all of our department heads who help us to maintain a healthy budget or healthy surplus so that we can spend the additional funds in a voluntary way rather than obligatory. And I haven't got a report, haven't even asked, but it saves us, I believe, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in interest payments. Absolutely. Which is really great stewardship. So I very much appreciate it. Any other comments or concerns?
No, that was really well said. Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'll move that we approve the Graham County policy regarding public safety retirement system, the PSPRS, and the pension funding policy of 2024.
Second.
Thank you, Supervisors. I'll make that unanimous. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have a brief presentation from our county manager, Dustin Welker, regarding the distribution of some secure rural schools funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you well know, each year we receive money through the state for secure rural schools. This is money that we're obligated to receive as a county and then distribute it to the school districts. We're also obligated to take a portion of that money and distribute it to our highway yard to maintain school bus routes. We've used $50,000 of that for years. We've tried to go less than that actually in the past, and they said, no, it needs to be more. So we've stuck at 50,000 and have been there for several years. This proposal you have before you includes that 50,000 again to our highway department for our roads. And then the remaining amount, around 350,000, distributed to the school districts. For many years, we took that money and divided it up per population. For the last 2 years, we did something a little different. We factored in the amount of acreage of Forest Service lands because that's basically what this money is based on. It's kind of like our PILT money, payment in lieu of taxes, because these properties aren't taxed like private property. This is the money to kind of make up for that. So what we've done in the last 2 years is we took that money and put a 20% weight on it based on the acres of public land in that district, and then the remaining 80% based on population. And the spreadsheet you have has those broken up as method 1, which is based solely on population, and then method 2 with that acreage weight on there. We've done that for the last 2 years. I think that, in my opinion and recommendation, it's been a positive change. And with that, we present that to you for action to direct us on which methodology you'd like us to proceed with to divide up these funds amongst the school districts.
Thank you. I would note that Supervisor Smith was he came up with this redistribution, and it benefits, but not not to an extreme or even a large extent, but it does benefit the Bonita schools, which typically have struggled because of their rural nature and are maxed out with their what they can actually their taxing authority. They're maxed out, and so this is a great way to redistribute funds, a small amount of funds. It was the difference $18,000. What was the differential? It's either 18 or 5. 23,000
from last year
total. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'd have to.
Anyway, but it's a minor change that benefits Bonita, and is I can't speak for the other schools to say that scarcely noticed, but it's barely noticed, just because of the small redistribution. So thank you, and I applaud it and supported it, and continue to do so. I'll defer to any other questions or comments.
No, Chairman, for the last 2 years, the way that we've done it, I feel like is closer to the spirit of secure rural schools and the funding and the reason that it exists. It helps a couple of or primarily one of those schools that has so much forest land in their school district, but doesn't have a lot of students, and results in a nearly negligible difference for the largest school district. So with that, I'll move that we approve the distribution methodology for the $397,764.18 in secure rural schools, with the way that we've done it for the last 2 years.
Is that, I will second that. Was that a motion?
Yes.
Yes, I will second that, most definitely.
And I'll make make that unanimous, and this will be one of your many legacies, Supervisor Smith. So next item of business will be we have a proclamation for provider appreciation. And can you explain provider appreciation?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Child Care Providers of America have designated April as the Child Care Provider Month and have reached out. They actually reached out to Supervisor Smith, so he may have some more to say about this, but asked if we'd do a proclamation, basically stating our appreciation and recognition of child care providers for the month of April, or May.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
No, it's, you know, we used to be deluged with these. We'd have several per meeting, and you wonder what it means, but we haven't had them lately that I'm aware of, and I'm just glad to support them, and it's important to these organizations that get it read into the record and get a letter of support by result or a proclamation. So great, and we need, as a community, we need more child care resources. Actually, a lot of places do, but we certainly do with this, as much shift work as we have in our community, and but we need a few more places that do that. So,
thank you. And any comments from Vice Chair?
No, sir.
Very good. Well, we'll dignify the resolution. If it's okay, we will read it into the record. I'll have our county manager do so.
Graham County Proclamation Provider Appreciation Day. Whereas Child Care Aware of America and other organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day, and whereas child care provides a safe, nurturing place for the enrichment and development of millions of children nationwide and is a vital force in our economy, and whereas the pandemic illuminated how indispensable child care providers are for the well-being and economic security of Graham County's young children, families, and communities. Whereas child care programs, which are mostly small businesses, run and staffed predominantly by women, are still recovering from health and financial hardships stemming from the pandemic, while they have continued to meet the needs of families. And whereas Graham County recognizes that child care has been a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy, and whereas our future depends on the quality of the early childhood experiences provided to young children today, support for high-quality child care represents a worthy commitment to our children's future. Now therefore, I, Paul R. David, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Graham County, hereby proclaim May 12, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day in Graham County, and urge all citizens to recognize child care providers for their important work.
Thank you. Very good. So it's done. It's proclaimed.
Okay.
Next, we have an opportunity to discuss activities and interests and responsibilities that we have as board members, and as the county manager, we'll have you start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is budget week. This is one of the biggest weeks of the year for us. Our department heads and elected officials have been working very hard over the last month to put their budgets together in preparation for the next couple of days. Julie and Cindy have been working very hard too with personnel requests, and of course Julie with the overall budget. We've been working a lot on our special projects plan that will also be presented to the board this week. We have a full slate over the next 2 days with department heads and elected officials, and we're excited to hear those reports. And that is my report for today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Smith?
Let me mention May 24th at EAC at 10 o'clock. Our valley is going to have an event brought to us by the Arizona Department of Commerce and the Arizona Association of Economic Developers. It's called an Economic Development Rural Roundtable, and they used to do these before COVID, and they're bringing them back, and the best place to do that, of course, is the Gila Valley. If you're interested in that and attending that, let me know. We're going to send out invitations this week. We expect to have 100 people there or so. We should have some great speakers, and we should hopefully get some ideas and move the needle on lots of topics, one of which is how to figure out how to get more childcare resources here in the Gila Valley. So anyways, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
I will pass today, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll fill in a few of the blanks. Both Vice Chair Howard and Supervisor Smith were, as in their roles with the Safford Downtown Association, hosted a luncheon recognizing excellence in the valley, and that is really a great for both the recipients and just the raising the bar, and I appreciate it as very well done. Been tracking at CSA. We had Eastern Counties Organization. One of the reports was that the Mexican gray wolf, the experimental population, establishing that is going very well here in the United States. This is a national effort, an international effort with Mexico, and Mexico is basically cratering. Their wolves in the wild have been poisoned and shot, and they almost to the point where they're no longer, they're talking about pulling in. So what's supposed to be an international, we probably ought to call this the Arizona, New Mexico gray wolf, because I don't know that it'll be extirpated in Mexico, and I think we'll be the only ones with a population. So that's a concern. And then CSA, County Supervisors Association, all three of the supervisors went into action when the House of Representatives suggested part of the budget plan, to balance the budget, that they pull back all the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act money, and of course we've anything that hasn't been spent, and we still have a little bit on the books or a lot on the books, depending on your perspective, and so that was kind of a selfish act for us in concert with everyone else to say don't do it, even though the national deficit continues to grow. There was a mental health awareness conference, so we had another monthly meeting. Been engaged in electrical vehicle charging efforts, discussions, trying to get the San Carlos reservation. They're looking at trying to establish a charging station here, both for their own transit authority, but also for the benefit of people driving through the area, and transportation. We're still got our fingers crossed. We are not privy to the negotiations on the budget in Phoenix, but we've got a significant amount of money statewide that depends on the outcome for rural Arizona, and that'll be great. And then water, we continue. There are opportunities, and continue to look at ways of both being more efficient and creating more water. And that's my report.
All right, Chairman. Earlier, I think we still have a need to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting and work sessions held April 17th.
Thank you. I thought I was being good about that, and thanks for sharpshooting that. Let's go ahead and I'll accept an amendment or a motion to approve the minutes.
Sure. Also move. Thank you, Chairman.
Second.
Thank you very much. Okay, last item of business is to approve the demands and handwritten warrants.
Chairman, I'll move that we approve the demands and handwritten warrants.
And I will second.
I'll make that unanimous. And we do have a bid. I'll let you explain that, Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every 5 years, we are required to bid out our banking services. This is, of course, through the Treasurer's Office, our bank. And Cindy Orr is here, our county treasurer, to view this. And we currently bank with Wells Fargo, and we received one bid from Wells Fargo. So that's the bid in front of us. It will not just tell us one number. They have a weighted and pretty complex request when they have the request for bidders. So there may be, there is a cost for service, so that is part of the complicated methodology that they'll be looking at, but I don't believe you'll want me to read this entire packet. Two copies, I'm sure, yep. But we'll see what there is to read here. We're pretty aggressive on the wrapping. There we go. I will just read, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll just read their cover letter here. It's obviously a several hundred-page response to our request for proposals. It says, Dear Cindy, Wells Fargo is pleased to represent Graham County with our response to your request for proposal for your banking services. As your current banking services provider, our special advantage is understanding your business, fully appreciating your needs and goals. Having established a solid work relationship with your dedicated team, we believe this strong partnership forms the basis for high levels of customer service while introducing you to service enhancements and strategic solutions for the future. Our continued focus will remain on the county's priorities and working with you on your short, mid, and long-term goals and collaborating together to achieve these goals. In addition to our cost proposal and to demonstrate our desire to continue as your banking services, this offer is valid for 60 days. We are offering the following incentives. And then it gives a myriad of bullet points. I won't read, but the following responses outline how we envision working with Graham County to help achieve your goals. Mr. Chairman, it'd be my recommendation that this proposal is forwarded to the County Treasurer's Office for evaluation and giving them the authority to provide this bid to Wells Fargo if they are indeed in compliance and within our budget.
Thank you very much for that recommendation. I did have a question for Cindy, if that's okay. You don't have to come to the podium, but since we just have the one bid, have we been receiving, are you satisfied with the services that we are currently receiving? Or in your opinion, do we need to, once you take a look at the details, is there any reason to consider going out to rebidding this? And you don't have to answer, but if you would respond to our county manager, and so that we can indeed, if there's a problem, and the fact we just have a single bidder, is that, how would I better state that, County Attorney Bennett? When you have a bidder and you, there's not, I'm not aware of any problems, but I just don't want to accept the bid if the current services aren't acceptable, and we have the opportunity to rebid it if that's an option or a need.
Not sure I understand your question.
Okay.
I can probably jump in. We always have the opportunity to reject any and all bids.
Okay.
So if this bid is not in line with our requirements, if we're not happy with it for any reason, we can reject any and all bids at all time and rebid at any time.
Okay. Thank you. So with that,
Chairman, I'll move that we direct staff to review the bid for conformity and whether we want to use them again and review that and make a decision going forward.
Thank you, well stated.
I will second that.
I'll make that unanimous. That motion carries. Our next three items are, they're on the agenda, so we don't need a motion, but we will be going into, I do have call to the public. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for, again, keeping me from skipping important things. Thank you, Steve. Call to the public. Is there anyone on the phone or anyone in the auditorium? Hearing none, then we'll go on to the three items. Thank you very much, Gene. Executive sessions for discussion of three items. We will return, but we don't know when, and to finish out the meeting. Hey, is Supervisor Howard back online?
He's not come back.
Okay, very good. We'll reconvene from our executive sessions. Session number 1, we talked about the litigation where the county was named and discussed that. And an action item is this. The county is, we're considering not having an answer to be filed, and we are considering having a notice that we will file a notice of appeal asserting nominal party status in this litigation. Any discussion? I'll make a motion here in a minute, but any?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'll move that that we not file an answer, but that we do file a notice of appearance asserting nominal party status.
I'll second that.
And the Supervisor Howard's not available, so I'll go ahead and that's a majority and make that unanimous.
Thank you.
No other action on the other two, Chairman.
Okay, very good.
David.
Well then, I'll motion to adjourn.
Sounds great.
Okay, so moved, and I'll make that unanimous, so we are adjourned. Thank you.